Moving on, despite government's claim that the recent National Media Commission ruling on the Joine's Militia in the Heart of the Nation documentary vindicates its argument that the station erred, questions remain as to what became of those trespassed the former seat of government. Government maintains the NMC in the ruling sustained the state's argument that the documentary had a misleading advertisement and also showed background footage that was unrelated to the activities of the DI group. Joy News has already stated, though it accepts the ruling, it disagrees. Joy News editor Fifi Kumsing, in the following report, echoes questions left unanswered about sanctions for those who allow the commander, Nana Reko Ado, alias Choman, and a team of young men and women to operate at the castle.
In the documentary, Joy News established the presence of the group operating illegally at the former seat of government. The state did not contest this, except to say that the people were
a group of young men and women dressed up in white shirts and black suits, converging at the castle Osu in the belief that jobs will be found for them.
Information Minister Kojo Oponkroma, at a news conference in March this year, indicated that the leader, Nana Reko Ado, also known as Choman, was appointed to retrieve vehicles from appointees of the erstwhile Mahama administration, finished in 2018, but decided to operate his own business from the castle.
After the conclusion of the work of the task force in August 2018, he subsequently converted the office allocated to him into a private business office for the stated purposes of his company.
Mr. Oponkroma said the situation was handled immediately it was discovered.
But it was quickly dealt with in October 2018 when he was evicted from the premises by a joint operation involving personnel of the National Security Secretariat and the Ghana Police Service.
But that's the problem. The government does not talk about who took responsibility and whether anyone has been sanctioned for allowing an unregistered security company to run from the Osu Castle. Here is private legal practitioner Ace Ankoma speaking on the matter earlier this year. He said the eviction was not enough.
Eviction means you can go and sin no more. But this is these guys on the face of it are as guilty as sin. But they evicted and they have the temerity, impudence, audacity to return to the prime real estate, the old slave fort, and then they have to be re-evicted. And so, you see, that's my problem. The law just does not work in this country.
Mr. Ankuma said the state must have ensured the prosecution of the people.
This is their own clear admission that they are operating to the extent that they don't have a license.
How do you arrest a group you evicted and may not know where they are?
Well, you evicted and they came back. And they only yesterday or 2 days ago went back to re-evict. Who did they evict? They didn't evict chairs and tables. They evicted people. There should have been eviction. There should have been an arrest.
But this is critical when in government's own statement, signed and read by Mr. Oponkroma, the people were not permitted to operate at the state facility. He said,
admittedly, this should not have been allowed to happen in the first place.
Former GFA spokesperson Randy Abe said someone must take responsibility for the operation of the group at the castle.
Is anybody being held responsible? So now the focus is on, are they militia? They're not. Do they have a disposition to violence? They are not. But the truth of the matter is that, look, so if you have a situation where there's a running battle between a group and the national security, and on 3 occasions, the national security is unable to kick them out, and that it has to take a reinforcement, joint effort. It cannot be just a group of some ideal unemployed young men and women. It cannot be.
But in all this, the narrative by government has been about nomenclature, how the people should be called, vigilante or militia, but very silent on the prosecution of the group or sanction for whoever's negligence led to the occupation of the group at the castle.
Many children are abandoning school at Nso Nyame in the Asante Achim North District of the Ashanti region due to poor infrastructure at the local primary school there. The children are said to prefer going to farm with their parents to learning in old and dilapidated classrooms in which a lot of teachers are reluctant to work. Authorities have consequently been compelled to combine classes amid fears the school may be shut down entirely if the situation persists. So him Interior has more.
Nsunyamiye DA Basic School was established by Community Initiative 38 years ago. Contributions from poor peasant and settler farmers saw the provision of what was supposed to be temporary shed, which has now become permanent. It is one of the basic schools yet to see any efforts by government to improve infrastructure in the Asante Achim North District. Erosion has eaten away the dwarf wall on which the wooden structure stands, and the cement floors of the classrooms have peeled off. Teachers and pupils are forced out to seek refuge in nearby houses when it rains. Annual enrollment of average 100 has dropped to just over 50. 5 primary classes and kindergarten have combined as a result. Kojodia is head teacher.
Because of lack of facilities, some of the pupils, when they come, because of the heat, some of them will be sleeping whilst teaching and learning is ongoing. They will be sleeping. Some also they don't attend school because they will even tell us, even we the teachers, that even our school is even not nice. Yes, so it discourages them from coming to school. So they say when they compare other schools, the way they see the blocks out, the classroom blocks are, and they come here sitting under these wooden structures and all this, it doesn't encourage them even to come to the school. So it has been a challenge. Sometimes the place can be flooded. All the surroundings of the classroom, every place can be flooded, and so you'll be stuck inside, and the water will also be flashing inside the classroom. Yeah, when it rains and the wind is blowing, you will be stuck inside, and the flashes of the rain will be coming inside. So in fact, the children cannot even open their books and write.
District Education Directorate acknowledges the state of the school building at Nsunyameye is a challenge, and as Kojo Afari is District Director.
Nsunyameye is one community that has not seen any school structure. The weak pavilion they have there was constructed by the local people themselves using local materials. And so each time it threatens to rain, these children have to be sent home because the pavilion has not been walled. Yes, so it is one community that is waiting to see a school structure constructed by the central government. And so this deficit is seriously affecting performance, affecting school enrollment, affecting retention of pupils in school. So that's the general problem we are facing as far as Nsunyameye is concerned.
Assemblyman for the area, Peter Abaji, says budgetary allocation and approval have repeatedly been done for years without execution for no reason.
We have written a lot of letters to NGOs and then to the district assembly, and every year this school, Nsunyameye school, normally reflecting our budget, but there's nothing, no action. So it has been a very big problem for us. So I don't really know. I don't know. If not God, I don't know. I don't know when Asante Achim North District Assembly will consider Nsunyameye to be part of the district to put up a building for the kids. And as you are seeing the status of the school, imagine a school like this, they don't have school feeding.
From Kumasi for Joy News, Ohiminteria reporting.
At least 886 bags of government-subsidized fertilizer was last night impounded in the home of a resident at Bolgatanga in the Upper East region. The fertilizer, meant for government's Planting for Food and Jobs program, was being loaded into a truck, suspected apparently to be smuggled to neighboring Burkina Faso. A tip-off from residents enabled the MC for Bolgatanga, Joseph Muire, to call in the police who impounded the vehicle. The owner of the house was not present, but his wife is assisting police with investigations. However, it is not clear for now if they are responsible for the smuggled or apparently smuggled fertilizer. We can listen to Bolgatanga Municipal Chief Executive Joseph Miure and Robert Adongo, who is neighbor to the man in whose home the fertilizer was found.
It was this evening, somewhere around 4 o'clock, when I got information from 2 young men. The 2 young men who are flanked to me currently were the people who sent a message to me that they had seen a vehicle loading fertilizer from a house. So I sent a message to the police and came on my own to also see exactly what was happening. When I came, I realized that indeed they were loading fertilizer from a house into a vehicle. So I told them to stop loading the fertilizer. The young man attempted to get the guy who had come and was loading the fertilizer, and the young man escaped. But I went to the police station to check on the police, but the police finally came. And when they came, the decision was we should load all the fertilizer from the house into the vehicle and send it to the police station. That's what the young men have done currently, and they have loaded the whole car with the fertilizer so that we can send the vehicle to the police station for safekeeping.
How many fertilizer have they loaded into the car?
In actual fact, the police were taking stock of what was being loaded, and the young men who were also loading were also taking stock. The young man got a figure of 904, and the police got around 886. So there's some kind of disparity. We have to reconcile that tomorrow and to know the figure, because at the end of it all, we have to pay the young man for loading the fertilizer. Yes.
So who is the owner of the house?
It's called
Kulabire.
It's called what?
Kulabire.
Kulabire. The other truck, unfortunately, we couldn't track at Ipala, and it had left. So I rang this, because exactly we didn't know the direction of movement of that vehicle. So I rang the district chief executive of Bongo to take some kind of surveillance, because a vehicle of that kind had left with fertilizer from my district. So they should link up with the police within their borders to see whether they can intercept them. I also rang the Binduri chief executive and requested that he should talk to his colleagues in the other areas so that in case such a vehicle comes around, they should be able to intercept it.
A fresh environmental investigation agency report has exposed what it describes as institutionalized timber trafficking in Ghana. The executive director of the Wildlife Division of the Forestry Commission is also cited in the report for issuing export permits despite a ban on the rosewood trade. The report, which focused on how corruption and collusion fuel illegal rosewood trade in Ghana, revealed that despite the ban since March 2019, dry forests and rural communities are still victims of rosewood plundering. The EIA investigators say they uncovered networks of high-level corruption that hampers efforts to end rosewood trafficking. Komla Adom has been studying the report and joins me in studio. Komla, what more does the report say?
So, Israel, the report says that illegal trade in rosewood and other timber species is continuing in Ghana, despite the ban, as you rightly mentioned, which was re-echoed in March this year. But they say as recent as June 18, 2019, they have evidence to suggest that there is still plundering of these resources, especially rosewood, in Ghana.
And how did they arrive at these startling findings, knowing that what we heard from Joseph Opoku-Gakpo's documentary, Killing Roses? We know at least there is an indefinite ban on anything to do with felling and trade of rosewood.
So, Israel, we know that the former Lands Minister, Inus Afuseni, in Joseph Opoku's documentary, re-echoed sometime in 2014 that there is a ban on rosewood, felling and trade. We also had subsequent Lands Ministers after him also ensuring that that particular ban is enforced. And we, just as recent as March, we heard from Kweku Asumatreme, who is the Lands Minister, who re-echoed that the ban is still enforced. So this particular investigators say they uncovered several instances, and they cite, for example, some traffickers in China who named some officials of the Forestry Commission as having issued permits to them and having been benefiting from the export value of some of these rosewood species.
And have we heard from the Forestry Commission official who was directly cited for the breaches?
So Israel, we made effort to speak to him. He reached out to us. He says he's on retirement, and so he had been contacted by the Forestry Commission boss, Kojo Usufrie himself, on this matter. They are currently studying the reports, details of the report, and in the coming days, they are going to be issuing their official position on this particular matter. They confirm that the report has come to their attention as the Forestry Commission.
All right, thank you very much, Komla Adom, for taking us through the report. Now, those are some interesting revelations there. Let's speak to the producers of this report. Kidan Araya is the Africa Program Campaigner with the Environmental Investigative Agency, and she joins us on the line. Now, from this report, Kidan, we get the sense the matter of Rosewood trafficking is bigger than thought. How bad is the situation as you found out?
Hi, great to be here. The situation that we found is rather alarming. We see that, contrary to many countries in the region, Ghana has a ban on rosewood, as you mentioned, which is great news. Unfortunately, we found that this ban is not being enforced, which creates a troubling crisis where this wood is being allowed to be traded despite the ban, and that's problematic.
All right, you mentioned an official of the Forestry Commission who you say is at the top of this, what you describe as institutionalized trafficking. Now, how much evidence do you have to support this?
Well, on the ground, our investigators were told by traffickers directly involved in the illegal rosewood trade that this official was directly involved in the trade, and we had several people telling us that, for example, that this official was receiving a percentage of the sales, that they were involved with the selling of CITES permits, which is the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. And so these were what traffickers were telling us on the ground that he was involved in, and that's what our report shows what they said to us.
So was it just this official, or there were other officials involved? Because you talk about institutionalized trafficking.
Exactly. Well, traffickers told us that MPP officials do play a role in these schemes. We are unable to reveal the names, but we hope that an investigation in Ghana through Ghanaian authorities can find out who exactly is involved. Some traffickers were telling us that MPP officials will give out permits for essentially to their members to make money. This is what we were told on the ground, and as we said, I think it's up to Ghanaian authorities to get to the bottom of this.
Have you shared this report with any of the Ghanaian authorities so that they could probably take it forward? And in their case, you could supply them with the names, for instance.
Yeah, we believe so. At this time, we can only reveal the one name that you had mentioned, but we have supplied the report to Ghanaian authorities, and as you were saying, they know that this report came out, and so we're open to working with them or to talking with them if they would allow us.
How would you suggest that countries like Ghana deal with this phenomenon? We know about the ban that's supposed to be enforced, but we clearly see that it's being violated. How do you suggest that this countries like Ghana handle it?
Yeah, well, I think first off, from what our report says, there's been some corruption inclusion going on, and so we do think that a thorough investigation must be conducted first off in order to find out who and how and what was involved, as well as coordinated dismantling of these institutionalized illegal logging networks. Second of all, we talk about Ghana, but as we said in our report, 6 million trees of rosewood were imported into China while the ban was in place in Ghana. So this is not just a Ghana problem, it's also a China problem, and we urge collaboration with Chinese and Ghanaian authorities to implement the export ban as well as the CITES regulations. I mean, this is about, equality this big is only possible through loopholes in the system, and it's a bigger supply chain issue. So we really do hope that authorities from both countries can strictly enforce this export ban. We also suggest a regional adoption of a zero export quota of this species of rosewood by not just Ghana, but West African range states until the CITES Appendix 2 requirements for legal and sustainable trade are met and publicly available. As we know, from what our report says, CITES permits are being sold, and we know that this species is banned anyway and should not be exported. And so there needs to be some regulation until we can get to the bottom of this. and Ghana can effectively enforce this ban. And of course, we think that there should be effective public transparency mechanisms that are in place. We know that Ghana has been a leader in good governance throughout Africa, and we know that Ghana has the power to solve this crisis. And so we really hope that this report is just a tool and that Ghanaian political officials, civil society, and communities can all come together to solve this problem together.
All right, thank you very much. There was Kidan Araya, and she is the Africa Program Campaigner with the US-based Environmental Investigative Agency. Meanwhile, Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Kojo Sofri, says his outfit is committed to ensuring the dealers in Rosewood comply with the ban on the endangered species. He has also justified the abrupt end of the trial of Helen Huang, the Chinese woman who was arrested whilst transporting the commodity in the northern region weeks after the ban was announced. In an interview with Joy News, Mr. Freer argued that instead of blaming government, the Ghanaian people must rather commend the administration for deporting the illegal Rosewood dealer to China.
Once the woman is in court, you have another agency of government that is also interested by saying that the immigration people and customs are saying that that woman will have an interest in her because she appears not to have the requisite document to come to Ghana. And before you could say that, they have, deported the person from Ghana. How do you blame it on Forestry Commission or blame it on government? Because, like I said, deportation is also part of a process, part of a punishment. So for me, government is committed, government is doing its bit, and from time to time we arrest people. If they are Ghanaians, we prosecute them here.
Sir John, the deportation bit still poses a challenge to some people who are in this fight against...
To you or to some people?
Those in the area of fighting,
but who are fighting?
The illegal deportation.
We are there. I don't have a problem with that. Look,
we have Ghanaians.
I'm telling you that deportation is also a punishment. Because I'm sure this woman would have loved to be here and that he would have gone to court and maybe fined. You don't assume that a judge would imprison the person. So what is the interest that you say that those people who are fighting it are not happy? I am fighting it. I am satisfied that the punishment that she got by being deported is appropriate in the circumstance, because we will not allow foreigners to come and stay in this country and then plunder our resources like we have.
More reason why I said that we should have given her a taste of the country's laws and how hard it bites.
What is the taste of the country's laws? Part of the laws of this country is to deport people if they are illegal. And so for me, having received that taste, how to put it, is part of how hard our laws bite. In fact, if she had not been deported, I would have had a problem, because then it means our laws are like toothless bulldogs. They can bark, they cannot bite. But this time we have demonstrated that our laws bite. They have teeth, they bark and bite. And that should but government should be commended.
All right, so let's go to Parliament now, where bills seeking to impose tax increases on fuel and communication services have been laid before the House. Standing by is Kwesi Parker Wilson with the details. Hello, Kwesi, what more can you tell us? All right, Kwesi Parker Wilson, just bring us up to speed with what's happening in Parliament as far as laying of the bills that are going to impose tax increases on fuel and communication services.
Well, so Israel Parliament just returned from suspension. They went on a quick break for just about an hour. And just before they went on the break, the Deputy Finance Minister, that is Abena Asari Osei, laid the bill before the House for amendment. And these are the Communications Service Tax Amendment Bill 2019. Earmarked funds capping and realignment amendment, that is for the total revenue and energy sector levies, and then finally luxury vehicle levy repeal, and that is for the luxury vehicles, as the finance minister proposed that they were going to withdraw that act, and that has been withdrawn. But a number of things have been happening here today. after the presentation of the budget yesterday, Parliament, together with the minority and majority, have been debating the budget review. Now, one of the things that came up on the floor today was about a cabinet document which the minority argued that the finance minister, when presenting the budget yesterday, misled the House, and that they wanted him to admit that indeed he was not truthful to the House, he misled the House, and that he should render an apology. Now, that is very simple because, according to the minority, the cabinet document that they saw or they have intercepted, the finance minister argued that the reason for the increment was because of the energy sector liabilities. But with the document, as the minority are alleging, the finance minister stated that and argued that they needed what they call expenditure pressures. That is why he wants to increase the taxes. But when he came on the floor, that wasn't the argument he made. And so that became some sort of a banter between the minority and the majority. And at the end of the day, the speaker ruled that the document as the minority is presenting cannot stand. So they shut it down because they couldn't authenticate the author of the document. So if you can see from the chamber, the MPs are returned and they are considering other amendment bill as to what they need to do next. But for the budget, they have suspended the debate, and that they will continue the debate tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much, Kwesi Parker Wilson, bringing us that update live from Parliament. You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, after which we're bringing you business news. And coming up in business governance, expert charges Ghanaians to demand accountability on the use of ESLA bond following government's introduction of some new energy levels. Do stay tuned in. Sandra Penn will be here with the details.
What Guta is complaining about is not new. It's been there over the past 20 years where we have foreigners in the market. As long as the law states that if you are not a Ghanaian, you can't.
The Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives on Tuesday visited the Cape Coast and Elmina castles to commemorate the 400th year since the enslaved people were forced to leave their homeland and sent to the U.S. Nancy Pelosi is part of a delegation comprising members of the Congressional Black Caucus who will pay homage to the sacrifices of African ancestors in building the U.S. The group's visit forms part of the Year of Return Ghana 2019 celebrations, a major landmark marketing campaign targeting African Americans and members of the diaspora to mark 400 years of the first enslaved African arriving in Jamestown, Virginia. Richard Kojanyako traveled with her and has come through this report.
It's the visit of the Speaker of the U.S. Congress, Nancy Pelosi, and today she is at the Elmina Castle. From here, she will proceed to the Cape Coast Castle. Her visit mainly is about the commemoration of the 400th year of the transatlantic slave trade. Karen Bass, chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, outlined the rationale for their visit.
I would like to state our mission for being here. We are being led by the most powerful woman in the United States government and the most powerful African American in the United States government. And we come here today in the year of the return, the 400th anniversary from our arrival on the shores of America. We come here to the castle, or as African Americans, we refer to the dungeons, to see what happened to our ancestors before they left here and embarked on the treacherous journey to the United States, in which they began a period of 250 years of enslavement.
The Omahin of Edna traditional area, Nana Kojo has also been speaking. He has made several requests put before the U.S. House of Representatives Speaker, and among them he said that the current government is tackling some social intervention policies, including education, and so they should come and support them, but they would appreciate if a reciprocal visit would be made to the U.S. so that they will have further interaction. His remarks in Fanti were relayed to the delegation in English by the Central Regional Minister Kwame Duncan.
What happened in the past
was not the best, was not the one that could promote humanity. And so in this period where we are taking the opportunity to remember and reflect on enslavement, we led this powerful delegation to be here and to make a profound statement to the rest of the world that you and many others like you abhor and condemn what happened. That you are here also to make a statement that we should, even in this forum, reflect more on how we can project from this sordid past to be able to build stronger bonds of friendship and relationships going forward.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi said it is the appropriate and befitting time for the U.S. House of Representatives to come here to pay their homage for the sacrifices the Africans made.
On behalf of our delegation, I want to extend thank you for the beautiful reception. You have warmed our hearts with your hospitality. You have touched our soul with the privilege of visiting this place. Thank you so much. It is now part of all of our heritage. On behalf of our delegation, I want to extend the bowl of the Congress of the United States with the invitation to visit us there soon.
She's been leading the delegation that includes 12 members of the Congressional Black Caucus who will return to the African continent as members of the United States Congress. Richard Kwejonya-Akon, Joy News, Cape Coast.
Victims of a demolition exercise near the Mamobi Polyclinic here in Accra accusing government of unfairly pulling down their structures. They say government gave them only 2 days to pack out and so were left with nowhere else to go. Nancy Mefadradozi was there in our reports.
I will have to sleep in front of the school today.
That is Samira, a mother of 4 who has just lost her chamber and hall structure. She is disturbed, unsure where she and her children will be sleeping this evening. She says if they were given a month's notice before the demolition, the story would have been different.
Last week, they gave us 2 days notice to vacate. This is sad. It was too short. 5 days now, 5 days, 4 days now, 4 days now, 2 nipa. Nkamuma 1 month to Quran,
Her husband, who we choose to call Mohammed, is as confused as his wife. He is even worried this may lead to a breakup of their marriage.
Any place to go, sister? That's another I'm speaking to. We don't have any place to go. I'm standing, sister. 3 trillion. How am I going to take care of them? If my wife leave me right now and go to some place, if my wife leave me right now and go to some place, and a man took him, how can I even say, sister? I don't have anything to say.
Mr. Akron has been living here for the past 20 years. He says he has no choice but to quit his job and go back to his hometown.
They should at least compensate us with transport first, so that we can go back to our hometowns. Else, I'll have to find another place to lay my head for some time.
Joanna Vode, who is carrying her 2-year-old baby and lives with her mother and grandmother, says they could not salvage their belongings before the structure was brought down. She says she paid 60 Ghana cedis to the assemblyman, who assured them that the demolition exercise will be postponed.
Almost like 60 cedis. Almost 800.
The assemblyman demanded 60 cedis so that the demolition exercise will be postponed. We were assured, but look at us. I couldn't salvage anything.
Meanwhile, member of the Mamobis too, Ni Abose Gideon, says the traditional council will proceed to court.
Yeah, definitely the stool will be going to court. But before we proceed to the court, we have to mount pressure on the land for no development to take place.
For now, all these residents can do is stand and watch their buildings pulled down. This will continue until night falls.
Joy News has meanwhile been unsuccessful in its attempt to reach the MCE and Assemblyman. Research analyst at the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, Mohammed Awal, is pushing for an effective decentralized system in the country if we are to make developmental gains. According to him, a proper decentralized system will enable local authorities to rapidly respond to the inequalities in the assemblies. He made this call at a forum to present findings of the District League table to some parliamentarians. Here's a report by Philip Ankra.
The District League table was introduced in 2014 by UNICEF as a social accountability tool, ranking Ghana's metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies by their level of development and service delivery. This year's report assessed 216 districts across the country in the areas of health, sanitation, education, security, governance, water, birth registration and net attendance rate at schools. Mohammed Awal is a research analyst at the CDD.
There certainly are limitations in how we are doing local governance in this country. As you heard, education and health, of course, education, we've made a lot of progress in terms of trying to decentralize the disassembly. Health still continues to be a centralized problem, but we want local assemblies to be able to address health problems, right? And so if we want that, then we need to properly do decentralization that allows them the ability and the capacity to be able to drive health issues and all of the cases that come up.
He also attributed the poor performance of some districts to lack of accountability and the unavailability of resources.
So there is both. So first of all, there's the question about, are we allocating resources better? And so if you say responsibility must follow resources, and you say the center has a lot of responsibility, so it has 95% of our national resource, and only 5% goes to the district, where the larger majority of our populations live. Do we think that this small Ghanaian state, the district assemblies as we call them, can be able to use 5% of national revenue to be able to address the development challenges that the people need? It's a conversation that we have to have. There is also the issue about accountability. Even the small that goes there, how do we effectively and efficiently use it? And that's where the issue around accountability comes in. And our side is to say we want to empower citizens. And that's why social accountability is important. And one important ingredient for social accountability is access to information. By producing this information and publicizing this information, citizens can be able to have this information and hold their governments accountable at that local level.
Member of Parliament for Sojaman and member of the Local Government and Rural Development Committee of Parliament, Thomas Nyako-Ampim, called on the researchers to target the central government rather than the district assemblies, since only the government has the power to initiate major projects.
Indicators in the district league table, a lot of them are beyond the control of the district assemblies. And so if it is the responsibility of central government, then we should let the issue be sent out there. We should let the issue be sent out there that what the league table is looking at is actually the performance of government in terms of service delivery in each of the assembly, so that the responsibility will be on government. Because right now, the impression is that it is the performance of the district assemblies. And they are, those factors are exogenous that they don't have control over. Of course, there are a number of factors that they can control. So if an assembly does well in areas that it can control, that assembly will not necessarily perform better in terms of ranking by the district league table, because there are a lot more that will have to be done by the central government.
This year's ranking had the Asakore-Mampo municipality in the Ashanti region being adjudged the worst performing district. Philip Ankress report for Joy News.
Now, former President John Mahama has accused the Akufo-Addo-led government of abandoning infrastructural and developmental projects initiated by the NDC administration. He said this when he paid a courtesy call on the Nkoranza Traditional Council as part of his two-day working visit to the newly created Bono East region. He called on the people to vote the NDC back to office for the completion of road networks abandoned by the MPP administration.
We're all going through hardship in this country. With God, the NDC will come back again. All the projects undertaken by the NDC with the NPP was expected to continue have been abandoned. And I know the NDC will bring development in the new Bono East region.
Addressing a mini debate in Kranza, former President John Mahama also blamed the current government of collapsing over 300 microfinance companies, resulting in the loss of the deposits of many traders.
MPP are buying microfinance companies, 365, over to 2 million.
The MPP government shut down 365 microfinance companies. Our mothers who have invested their hard-earned resources have their monies locked up in these companies.
Microfinance companies. Politics.
When we comment, they say we should not play politics with them.
Your friend, the DKM as a day. Yeah, the politics.
But when the NDC was in power, they played politics with the DKM microfinance issue.
The campaign to keep Ghana clean is getting attention as some citizens are turning themselves into community watchdogs to stop people from littering the city. It was a dramatic morning at Ashamang as some residents picked up the Clean Ghana campaign by making a man pick refuse from the streets after he was caught littering. The culprit, however, denied any wrongdoing. He and a witness spoke to us.
The young man picking up refuse from the street when he was caught littering at Ashamang on Tuesday morning. As part of his punishment, he was made to pick all refuse from the streets. A resident who witnessed the act said the punishment was meant to serve as a deterrent to others to desist from littering. The culprit, however, denied any wrongdoing. He says he was rather helping to clear refuse from people's homes, but his actions were misunderstood by the residents.